Sure, they're more powerful than their predecessors. Sure, they're way more expensive than their closest competitor, which, by the way, is pushing the frontier of mobile tech. Sure, they have slimmer bezels, but it just seems like we keep having the same conversations over and over again as we pit these two tech titans of mobile tech against each other. In this corner, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, a beast of a phone packed with cutting-edge technology and AI-driven smarts. In the other, Apple's iPhone 16 Pro Max, the latest in the lineage of devices that defined the smartphone era. Both are flagships, both are powerhouses, but there's only one winner, and trust me, it's not the one you think it is. So buckle up because this is about to be one epic showdown. Alright, first things first, design. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is boasting that same iconic minimalist aesthetic. Soft curves, sleek, and timeless. For so long, this look has been kind of the James Bond of smartphones. The Grade 5 titanium give it that premium but lightweight feel. The action button, of course, makes its return along with the usual suspects in the power button and the volume rocker. But this year sees the addition of a new button, camera control, for quick access to your camera or something. But anyways, there's USB-C 3.2, a beautiful 6.9-inch flat display with super skinny bezels, and finally, of course, the signature camera look on the back of the phone here. The Galaxy S25 Ultra, on the other hand, boasts a titanium unibody build, Grade 5 as well. It's all symmetry here, subtle curves where they matter, and flat rails all around. It's lighter at 218 grams, thinner at 8.2 millimeter, and yet somehow feels denser. The usual suspects are there: power button, volume rocker, USB-C 3.2 as well, and of course a SIM card slot not available on US models of the iPhone 16 Pro Max here. We also have the Ultra line's signature stylus here, the S Pen. All of this topped off by a top-tier 6.9-inch flat display with super thin bezels which practically melt into the titanium frame. Finally, of course, Samsung's recognizable camera module is on the back there. Now, my verdict for the design is going to go to the 16 Pro Max here, and I'm sure so many of you are shocked by my take here. But yeah, I give design to the 16 Pro Max here because of the looks, but it feels even more premium in hands when compared to the S25 Ultra here. The way I see it, the looks of the Ultra line specifically this year regressed, and that's simply because Samsung chose to make the Ultra look like the cheaper regular and plus models. Moving on to displays here, and things start to heat up. They're both 6.9-inch displays and they're both beautiful. The iPhone boasts a Super Retina XDR 120Hz display that peaks at 2000 nits in terms of brightness, which is, plenty bright. And that's of course until you step into direct sunlight and, start squinting away because of that glare. The PPI on the iPhone here is 460 versus the higher PPI on the S25 Ultra at almost 500. I do need to specify that they're both super sharp and vibrant in terms of quality. So you're definitely not going to be able to notice the difference in PPI specifically. The S25 Ultra, on the other hand, is pushing a dynamic AMOLED 2X 120Hz refresh rate display, and it also flexes its 2600 nits with an anti-reflective coating. It's noticeably easier to read under bright light, and side by side, the difference is literally night and day. As I mentioned before, it also is pushing a higher PPI at 498. It's also important to point out the iPhone's support for Dolby Vision HDR, because depending on the content you're watching, you may lean one way versus the other. But as far as my verdict goes on display, I'm gonna give that win to the S25 Ultra because of the, peak brightness and of course that anti-glare coating. I've highlighted that before in a number of occasions. And on top of that, the display just overall is really good on the S25 Ultra. By the way, if this is your first time visiting the channel, welcome, of course. Please do me a favor, hit both the like and the subscribe button there. I truly appreciate that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to performance. And this power standoff between the A18 Pro and the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy is just insane. I mean, these two chips could probably, run a small spaceship, but I digress here. They're both absolute beasts, topping charts in raw benchmarks. But here's the thing, real-world performance, especially day-to-day stuff, it's basically the same as last year. The S25 Ultra Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy is a more powerful chip when compared to the A18 Pro for the 16 Pro Max here, although the iPhone does edge the Ultra in single-core performance, but the Ultra 8 Elite here destroys it in multi-core. And RAM also still matters. The iPhone 16 Pro Max here is still, rocking that 8 gigs of RAM, whereas the S25 Ultra is pushing it at 12 gigs and all the way to 16 gigs depending on the config that you go for. And that's enough to keep more apps open in the background, meaning less app refreshes and more seamless multitasking. If you are a power user who flips between a dozen apps, the Ultra would be the way to go. So for power and performance, the clear winner is going to be the S25 Ultra here. And that's not only because of how powerful this overclocked version of the Snapdragon 8 Elite is, but because of how efficient it is. Added to that gigantic vapor chamber in the Ultra, along with other things. Now, moving on to software and AI here, since this has become the buzzword of the past couple of years, and frankly, with reasons. It's just everywhere you look, right? But only one company out of these two is really taking full advantage of it and making right use of it, and that's Samsung. The S25 Ultra runs One UI 7 out of the box, and it has exclusive AI tricks, at least for now. It handles a lot of things natively, anywhere from summarizing a website, toggling settings, or automate tasks, along with other, extra perks like the new Now Brief and audio eraser tools, which make a real difference for content creators. You get instant live call translation, generative AI-powered photo editing, object eraser that actually works. I mean, at this point, Samsung is just miles ahead when it comes to AI integration. Now, speaking of AI integration, it's not just Samsung's game, right? They may be ahead, but Apple also has its own integration of all of this stuff. The 16 Pro Max here runs iOS 18, and this is Apple's first series to hit the stage with its own AI-first approach, in this case dubbed Apple Intelligence. And it's also set to be built from the ground up with artificial intelligence in mind. I do have to say, however, that it ended up being a big disappointment once finally deployed. A lot of it just seemed pretty limited, anywhere from the visual lookup to the AI audio mixer. Even as of today, there's still more that we're waiting for from Apple as far as AI goes. And we are here waiting, unsatisfied with what they've delivered so far, but we waiting. So as far as software and AI goes, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to the Galaxy S25 Ultra here. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to cameras. Apple's 48 megapixel sensor is here, packing in more light and details, while the S25 Ultra's 200 megapixel monster is, an absolute flex. If you love zooming into details, the S25 Ultra takes the crown with its 5x periscope zoom. And while Apple's software magic makes it 3x zoom look great, it simply cannot compete at longer focal length. Low light performance, both phones do well, but Samsung's computational photography continues to improve, especially in dynamic range. As far as video goes, iPhone still leads with cinematic mode, Dolby Vision HDR, and excellent stabilization. My verdict on camera, it's it's a toss. I'm gonna say it's a toss depending on what you like, right? If you like things that are punchier, you're probably gonna lean Samsung. But if you want things that are more natural, you are going to lean, of course, you know, Apple. But if you just want videos, you only get the phone for videos, clearly, you know, Apple is gonna win that. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to battery here. We are looking at 4,685 milliamp hour for the iPhone versus 5,000 milliamp hour on the S25 Ultra. In my test, the S25 Ultra's battery is a much better battery, and that Snapdragon 8 Elite takes efficiency to another level. On top of lasting longer than the iPhone, the S25 Ultra supports faster charging at up to 45 watt wired versus about 27 or 28 with the iPhone. So for battery, verdict here, Galaxy S25 Ultra wins for battery. Now, with all of this said, it's clear that these two powerhouses are fantastic phones. They're excellent phones. The iPhone still has refinement, power, smoothness, and longevity. But if we are talking about battery or AI or zoom or power or innovation, you know, as it relates to iPhone here, the S25 Ultra is the one. In either case, you can't go wrong. In my case, the S25 Ultra wins, but I still don't like what they did to the design there. That's my take. I know many people are going to disagree. Let's have that civil conversation running in the comment section. Let me know your take, any questions you may have. I'm gonna catch you in that comment section like I always do. Make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit that subscribe button and make sure to share the video if you know anyone who'll be interested. I'm gonna catch you in the comment section. I'm also gonna catch you in the next video. Up until that next video, of course, as always, stay safe out there.